All right. Hello, beautiful people. Happy Thursday. Can't believe we're at that point in the week already. Glad to be back. Have an opportunity to chat with you yet again. And I guess I'll just start with a quick reminder to ourselves, to myself, and to you that you're beautiful, that you're a whole person, and that you can do anything that you want. With that in mind, I always want to just point out that whatever advice I'm giving is applicable to maybe 90% of you, but there's 10% that it's not applicable for. And there's a whole spectrum of some may be applicable on some aspect of where you are in life. Maybe it'll be applicable later in life. But in general, the idea here is to take ideas that I'm kind of sharing and then apply them to yourself. And that's, I think, the general idea for advice is that I'm hope that you can maybe learn something that you haven't thought about in a different way and then apply it in a way that can make you happier. So I will start out with a comment from yesterday that was a follow-up. If you were here yesterday, a woman had kind of mentioned that her husband was physically abusive and for the last 4 years, and I gave some thoughts on, codependency and kind of my perspective on maybe some advice. So she followed back up with these thoughts, and I'm going to share them and maybe talk a little bit about kind of where she took things. Thank you so much. I watched your advice thoughts. It hit me very hard. I'm so ashamed and humiliated. I heard your words loud and clear. Thank you very much. And I skipped a little bit there, but I wanted to focus on your words that I'm ashamed and humiliated. And the message that I kind of want to send you is please, I really think you don't need to be ashamed. So we can be shameful maybe if we haven't taken action once we've figured something out. And this is the general idea that I want to throw out there about shame. If we've tried our best in life and we've messed up, there's nothing shameful in that. It's just who we were, it's who we are. We have to forgive ourselves. And so I hope that this isn't something where you have shame, but rather you can see that inner strength that you're taking now, and you can feel proud of the action that you're now taking. So it's a subtle shift, but I think it makes all the difference, like most of these subtle internal things that we tell ourselves. So as opposed to approaching this as a place of being shameful, come from strength. Look what I'm doing. I'm taking things into my own hands. Look how strong I am. All right, let me pull up today's comments and I'll start answering from today's as questions come in today. Oops. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Put this over here. Cool. All right, California. It's morning in California. That was just about 3 hours. All right, let's see what we got here from. So we're gonna go back 3 days because I think I got to all the questions yesterday. So I'll go back to the day before that and see what we have here question-wise. Oh, I should also throw in my phone number if anybody wants to call and chat. And also, obviously, I would like to encourage, discussion and helping people out, because my advice is certainly just one perspective. And I think the more information that we can share with each other, the better things are. And then if you can be more specific in your questions, I can try to address them, not just broadly, but really understand what you're asking and maybe give some specific advice. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I really do. It means a lot to me that, and I bumped into this. I'm going to throw this link in. since it does look like starting to recognize some names here. The other day I was talking about beauty, and this wasn't what I was referring to, but I think it does the same thing, which really lets you see, and you'll see you're going to be attracted. And again, I think these are all women, but and I'm sure there's a similar version for of men. But if you're into women, you'll notice that some of them you're attracted to, and some of them you're not. And I just think that's so important as we approach our own vision of beauty. Okay, that's what we got question-wise. I'll start from the question, guys. I'll start from the question. Yeah, the day before there was a lot of talking, which is awesome. So, but I got to find the questions. Oh, yeah, this is a great question. So, in my experience, what's the best way to console a friend who has lost a family member? So, how do we help somebody deal with loss? So, what I've found so far to be, I think, the most. So, let's talk about what's uncomfortable about dealing with loss. And the first is that we don't do it a lot, especially as we're younger. There hasn't been a lot of death in our life as we're younger. So it's like anything in life, it's a learning process. And the other thing is, that's it. So it's an awkward exchange. So I think the most important thing is just to be there and to show up and to sit with the person and to sit in silence, which is also kind of hard, right? Because sometimes they might want to talk, sometimes they might not want to talk. Sometimes they want to distract themselves. But I do think that if someone's going through a hard time, lost a family member, a breakup, which is a big, was a big part of their life, any type of loss, I think the best approach is just showing up. And that means physically showing up and being there. And you can even say to them, hey, look, I'm here to sit and just be in the same space as you. If you don't want it, I'm happy to leave. Like, don't call and say, hey, can I come over? Like, just show up, say, hey, I knew it's a hard time. I thought I'd just stop by. I have no expectations. I'm happy to leave in 5 minutes. I figured I'd just sit and read a book in your space. Sometimes just having someone around can mean so much to us. And just making it clear that they don't have to talk. Because sometimes we don't want to talk. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And taking some of that pressure off and being comfortable sitting in that silence, which is a hard thing to do. It's right. You want to know, just a great tool in life. If you ever want to get someone talking, just don't talk, and they'll start talking because nobody can stand silence. So that's a trick that you can use effectively, actually. So I'd say that's the first step. The first step is just to show up, physically, and show up in presence, and then from there, it's just check in every day or two. Hey, just checking in. Just want to make sure you're cool. Cool. Hang up. That's it. And then maybe show up. So it depends on your relationship and how close you are to the person. But I think the physical being there, the checking in, it shows that someone cares about us. And I think when there is a loss, that can add a lot of value, or there's sadness, or whenever we're struggling. Those are the things I think we can do to help a friend. Third world children experience more loss. Does that make them young adults? Look, we grew up. It takes us longer to grow up nowadays. I mean, there's no question to me about that. We used to be married when we were 12 or 13 and having kids, and then dying. I mean, the average death was 50, something like that. So our life is much more stretched out than it used to be. So even in our early 20s, we're still growing up. So absolutely, I would think the more experiences that we have, And the more hardship that we have, we learn from hardship. I mean, that's what we, unfortunately, one of the major things that propel us forward. So absolutely. Is there a way to practice loss? Not sure I understand the question. Um, all right. Okay. So what else we got here? I don't have any good questions I really want to get into. So I guess I'll just talk. I guess that's what I'm going to do today. What should I talk about though? It's not usually. It's not really something I'm particularly. I guess we can talk about happiness. Talk about happiness. Everyone's looking for happiness. Let's talk about happiness. But please call me, ask me some questions, throw some questions up. I really don't want to just sit and talk about random things. It's less effective. It's I think the short questions here kind of help me just speak directly to something as opposed to just kind of blabber. Oh, all right. There we go. Thank you, Just Gerald. How do you forgive someone who has messed you up mentally, physically in the past? In the bullying kind of way. All right. So the question is, how do you, and I think it's a general question, but let's talk about forgiveness. So the first thing I want you to realize is that as long as you're not forgiving someone, you're attaching yourself to that pain, which is ironic in a weird kind of way. But if we want to heal ourselves, we have to forgive. Now, I haven't explained and talked about how to forgive, but I want to understand the concept, which is that until you have forgiven, you're going to have pain. And the goal for all of us, I think, is to disattach from pain so we can then see the natural beauty and the natural pleasure that exists in the world. So that's step one. Just recognizing that. So the goal has to be to learn how to forgive. I found for me that the best way to forgive is to really look at a couple things, depending on the situation. In a bully environment, then I think you have to say to yourself, now that you're a little bit older, and you can recognize this was a bully, you can look back and say, how sad for that person that they felt a need to bully, that their self-esteem was so low that they felt a need to hurt another human being, to threaten another human being. How sad it must be to be that person. How scary it must be to be that person. So understanding the mindset behind the bully in a real way as an adult allows you then to create a space that you can forgive, because it's not personal. The bullying wasn't about you. It was about something that they didn't have. They didn't have love in their home. Whatever it was, there was a reason that there were mean people to other people. And so that's kind of my approach for a bully. How would I kind of forgive? It's just I'd feel sorry for the person. And in the process of doing that, you see them as a person, and then you can kind of forgive them, because it kind of sucks to be them, doesn't it? So that's the bully kind of forgiveness. And then the other kind of forgiveness typically is going to be when someone's hurt us. Thank you for the hugs. And 31 seconds of airtime. I don't know if you guys kind of see it. It's kind of interesting. 31 seconds, like someone programmed, it's not going to be 30 seconds of airtime. It's going to be 31 seconds of airtime. So that's number one. And then number two, where the forgiveness is where someone does something to us, and maybe in a relationship, right? There's a different kind of forgiveness that has to happen in that scenario, where we have to come to recognition that that person just did what was right for them. And that just like we do what's right for us, and we have to do what's right for us. I want everybody to know that. You have to put yourself first, even though you can't put yourself first. But at the end of the day, this is your life. And it has to be their life too. Now, there are nicer ways that people can break up and not as nice ways that people can break up. But the reality is that it's what they needed. So I think that's important. So in the way we can forgive them because that's what they needed. We weren't what they needed. And another way to say it is, aren't we glad that they realize that now as opposed to 5 years later or 10 years later? As hard as it might be to kind of hear something like that. I'm trying to think of other places of forgiveness. And then I think the other thing just is that time helps heal wounds. We forget about what people have done to us over time, and it becomes more fuzzy, and it becomes easier to forgive as time goes on. But I do think forgiveness is an active act. If there's an active act of forgiveness that we have to do in order to free ourselves from the, I guess I'll use the word attachment of the pain that is associated with that other person. And if we don't do the work, we have to carry that on through life. And I don't think any of us want that. I push my friends away when going through a tough time. Now it's difficult to reach out. So the first thought is, I get it. It's a little maybe embarrassing. But I think if any friend of mine called that had pushed me away and said, hey, Josh, I was just calling because you know what? I was going through a tough time and I realized I was an asshole. I think I would respond, I'm here for you. I'd love to rekindle our friendship. Meaning, as long as you own it, I think you'll find that the other party will probably be just like, cool, man, welcome back. And the only person scared of doing that is you. And they might be scared to approach because you've pushed them away. So just by opening it up, and you don't even have to make it as serious as I just said it, just calling up and say, hey, I just wanted to check in. I know we haven't chatted for a while, but I miss our friendship. I mean, be vulnerable. You got to, at the end of the day, friendships, is different. The difference between friendships and acquaintances is vulnerability. And if you be vulnerable to put yourself out there and say, I really valued our friendship, and I just realized I've been missing it, and I'm sorry, and I wanted to call and let you know. So some aspect of those things. And I'm going to come back to you, Juice, in a second. So forgiveness is ongoing. Yeah, I think it's a process. So, I think there are people in my life that I've been forgiving for years, but it's something that I actively try to keep on trying to understand their perspective, trying to understand that it's not personal. And because until I can fully forgive, then there's some aspect of me that's in pain. And that's what I want to erase. I want to erase that pain. And so I'm just free. Because once we get rid of all our pains, and then we're free people. And that's, to a large extent, I think one of my goals in life is to truly be free and walk through the world in a free space, free of burdens. They're all up here, right? They're all up here. What's a piece of advice you'd give to people in their 20s? So, I'm trying to think of a new piece of advice. I mean, the general piece of advice I always give people is to appreciate what your big negative lie about yourself is. And since we don't have any questions, let's talk about our big lie for a little bit, because I think it is such an important idea and important practice. And I was thinking more about this morning, actually, on my walk, that we all have something inside us when something goes wrong that we say about ourselves. And it's a negative thing. For me, it was, and probably still is, I'm not enough. For others, they've said, I am crap. Others, I'm stupid. And this is a really soft voice in the back of your head somewhere. And you have to really pay attention to hear it. But if you do pay attention, eventually you will hear it. And what you'll find is that it's a multi-layered thing that holds you back in so many different ways. It holds you back from happiness. It holds you back from reaching your own potential. So the idea is identifying what that false belief is. In fact, maybe you guys can throw out your false belief. Throw them out on chat. Nobody knows who you are. Throw out what your false belief is, or if you haven't done it, and then maybe I can even help you identify a fault. What one, you're in it. This is what your big thing is, and it's deep and it's scary. That's the thing about some of these things is you start thinking about it. Sometimes you can't see it because you're scared to admit it to yourself. Actually, that's one of the cool things, and it's actually not necessarily something you can throw out now that I think about it, because in order to discover it, you have to see almost like this blade of death in front of you, where it's like, I can't get past this. I'm scared. And then you see it and it all kind of goes away, which is kind of one of the things with a lot of our personal beliefs, which is kind of interesting. They're not really scary. We've made them scary. We've told ourselves they're scary, and so they're scary. You see what happens in the mind? So okay. So for me, I'll give you an example. So for me, it used to be, and I don't know if I say it used to be, it probably still is. I'm in kind of the middle of figuring out if I still have the belief or not. But let's just go with that. The belief was that I'm not enough. So I walked around thinking in some aspect that I just wasn't enough. And so that would propel me to, for example, it would propel me forward. Failure was not an option because I needed to prove to the world that I was enough. I needed to be successful, because if I wasn't successful, then I would have just shown that my biggest fear, I'm not enough, is really true. So I had no choice. And that's, I think, a good example. So sometimes if you can look at what pushes you forward, you'll actually see that in there is some messaging of what that false truth is. Or if you start paying attention to those things that really get you angry, what are the things that make you really emotional? And start listening, you might hear what that is. So I'm going to keep saying it. We'll keep talking about it. And hopefully it'll become more clear. Because I think a lot of these things, the problem is, there's two things that I've noticed. One is that once you realize it, it's hard for me to, so once I recognize something, it's hard for me to share it in a way that I can give it over, because it's no longer an issue. I noticed this with I was talking yesterday about something, I can't remember the word now about, as I'm saying, the subtleties of these things, where once you understand something and you're aware of it and you incorporate it, it's just no longer an issue. And so it's even hard to remember the examples, which were such a large part of my life. But then the other piece to throw out there is that sometimes it's just hard to put these things in words because they're subtle ideas. So I can speak around them with the hope that you can, maybe as I talk in different directions, so I talk from here and I talk from here and I talk from here and I talk from here, that you can then just start to see what's in the middle. So that's kind of my goal with some of the stuff, and why I keep bringing up the same things, because what I think you'll find is, even once you find maybe your false belief, there's actually something even deeper underneath it, underlying it. So, okay. Do I have kids? Yes, I have 3 kids, 15, 19, and 20. Who are awesome. I love my kids. Good kids. Good people. Good humans. How do I talk to my crush? think you just got to do it. Let's make it abstract for everybody, because not everybody has a crush here they're not talking to. But we all have something in life that we're scared to do. Something where we're saying to ourselves, I'm afraid of failing. Whatever it is. It's human nature. So the best way to approach it is just to go and do it. Now, that sounds kind of hard. That doesn't really answer the question in a way, right? Just go do it. In a way, that's the honest truth. A good way to maybe approach things, and I always like to look at exercises that can maybe enable us to do what we want to do. So, for example, talking to your crush is about really putting yourself out there in some way. So are there other things that you can do where you kind of put yourself out there in a different aspect of your life, but that flexes that muscle of really doing something? So that's the first thing I'd ask. So if you can't just go and do it, and maybe we can talk a little bit about a mindset, right? The mindset, instead of looking at it as this is going to go horrifically, change the perspective to this is going to go awesome, right? How much easier is life if you kind of can say this is going to go well, as opposed to I'm afraid it's going to go poorly. Understanding exactly what it is that makes you anxious about it. Are you afraid of the failure? What exactly is it, right? What exactly are you afraid of? Are you afraid of the rejection? Are you afraid of, so get some clarity on that. And then you can work on that a little bit, and it gives you a little more awareness and a little more power to create change. But I think what you'll find is that if you just do it, it'll go well. And I think that's what, in general, most people would advise here. So we can see what everybody else says too. But yeah, I think it's that simple. And if you've never spoken to her, it's a crush from afar. Just walk over and say, hey, I like your dress. Or hey, I like your hat. I quit drinking and I feel better health-wise, but I lost all social connection. Thought it was alcohol. Not so sure why I have a not enough voice. So, meaning, I assume what you're saying, the first part I kind of get, that you quit drinking, and, drinking is a great social kind of, you can go to a bar, you can meet people, you can have friends over and you can drink. I'm not sure, I don't understand the second part. To me, the obvious kind of thing to throw out there is still hang out and just don't drink. Now, if you can't, if there's an alcoholic kind of aspect going on, then it's just about finding other things to do, finding meetup groups, finding other venues to meeting people that don't involve drinking, but rather involve doing whatever you enjoy doing. And that's the cool thing. And I think that's always the goal, is can we find our clan? Can we find the group of people doing whatever we enjoy doing, or talking about whatever we enjoy talking about, or just being in a way that we enjoy being. So if you want to throw some more information to the second half, I'm happy to talk to that. But at the end of the day, eating and drinking, right, food and alcohol brings people together. I mean, there's a reason why you have business lunches, right? Because just literally sharing bread, breaking bread together creates a connection. So, I think understanding that, and then maybe changing how you approach it, could be productive. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to read this because I like this. Holy crap, this is excellent advice. I think maybe mine might be because I don't deserve to be happy. What a crazy thought, but absolutely. And then you got to ask yourself, why do you think that you don't deserve to be happy? But how many of us think that we don't deserve it? So you got to always ask the question, why? That's the question that keeps getting you deeper. Why do I feel this way? And then whatever your answer is, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way? Why? You keep following it down until you get to the turtle on the bottom. Yeah, the first answer is not going to be the right answer. It's going to be 4 or 5 layers down. Okay. Dad, how do I get over the fact that I will never be good enough for you? So I think if you said that to your dad, he'd probably cry. I think if my kid said that to me, I would probably cry. And I don't cry that much, but I think that would kind of kill me in a way inside. Um, yeah. So this is the first thing I'd ask is this something that you've created for and assumed that you're not good enough for him? Right? Ask yourself that real quick and just kind of check in with yourself. So I know you're saying it, I know you feel it because you're saying it. So I trust that that's how you feel. But I would ask the question, do you really think that he thinks you're not good enough? Or is it that he wants you to strive? He doesn't, right? Let me give some other perspectives that he could be having. Now, again, you're taking that you're not good enough, but really what he's trying to give over is some aspect of he sees how amazing you are. He sees your potential. He sees, you know, what you can be. And he's so proud of you as you are. He really is. Another approach would just be um, such a hard, it's a heartbreaking question. I'm sorry, friend, that you feel that way because you are enough and you've always been enough. You are enough and you've always been enough. It can also be that he's scared, that he wants to make sure that, you know, life is hard and he wants to make sure that you're taking care of yourself to have the finances that you need and to have that which you need, the skill set that you need so you can really thrive in the world. So it's not that you're not enough, but he's just pushing you for more. So those are just two possibilities, but there's probably 10 reasons why he could be pushing down in a certain way and kind of, and I understand how you're feeling. And it probably started at once upon a time that you said, I'm not enough in some way. And then you started seeing it in everybody. Right? So it could have been you're 4 years old and somehow you just got in your mind, I'm not enough. And this is what happens. This is how the false belief kind of grows, is that we create our false belief when we're really young. And then we keep seeing it in all these different aspects of our lives, which reinforces it, but it's not true. It's what's it called? It's coincidental, and because our minds focused on it, we keep seeing it, but it's not any more true than any of the other many things that we're not seeing. It's like if I say, look at all the elephants that you see, and over the next couple of weeks, you're going to start seeing elephants. It's an elephant here, it's an elephant there. And you'll be like, yeah, there really are a lot of elephants all around. Actually, my friend, she says she has parking karma. Right? I've never told her this. I don't think she watches this. So let's hope for the best. So, and every time she says that, I think to myself, it's just because you keep seeing the times when you get good parking spaces and you ignore all the times that you don't. And that's what we do. And that's what happens with our false belief too. So hopefully that adds some thought, some positive thought. Okay. Okay, so here's, I think I found my false belief, but how do I change my psychology around it? I know it's not logical, but I can't disassociate the emotion from it. So what I think you'll find is when you really find the false belief, so much happens when we become aware of some of these internal things that it really does dissipate 80% of it. So chances are you'll know when you've really found it. Excuse me. And so if you can't fully disassociate from it, chances are, to me, that means you haven't necessarily found it yet. So keep digging, keep asking the why, keep asking, and come back and tell me if you find it a little deeper. It's a couple month process. It's not a couple hour. I put certain people on a pedestal and feel very stupid and afraid around them. Yeah, so actually, this is reflective to me. There's certain personality types that are kind of loud that make me a little uncomfortable. It's just reflective of that to me. Um, and it's kind of ironic, right? Because you're the one that put them on the pedestal. But I would ask, I would question, are these people of power typically, right? Are these people, is it the pastor at church and the boss at work and the rich guy you bump into getting out of his Bugatti so for me, I think that's typically, it's a person of power, where this kind of tends to happen. So, and then once you can recognize that, you can ask, well, what is it about? What's the first, try to recognize the pattern? What kind of people is this typically? And then you can say, well, what's being reflected? What am I reflecting on them? What power am I giving over to them, maybe? Or what's really going on underneath? So you can ask that as the question, if that makes sense. But the first is recognizing what kind of people they are that you're doing this around. And then you can start analyzing, well, what is it that I'm giving up? What is it that I'm not owning in myself? And I'm actually going to think about it a little bit. What is it about people with power that make me a little uncomfortable? I've thought about it, but I've never gotten an answer. So maybe I'll come back with an answer. Maybe you have some advice for me, please. And as always, if anybody wants to call and chit chat, so we got about 8 minutes left. Please, the number's at the top. And also, if you don't mind subscribing on YouTube, just trying to get to 100 people, that I'm not going to mention anymore. But I do need 100 people so I can name my YouTube channel to help people find me a little better. 5-second rule is great. I'm just going to read it in case you guys didn't see the comments. If you want to do something, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just go. Make it happen. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't. Yeah, and sometimes I missed some questions. So, yeah. Thanks for coming back and bringing them back. Didn't get to answer my question last time since it ended, but as a 29-year-old who left the military after 9 years of service, so he started at 20, and trying to finish my 2 bachelor degrees, awesome, am I supposed to feel almost useless for not having skills as other people my age? Absolutely not. You're going to have military service, which is an experience that most people don't get the opportunity to have. And you're going to have 2 degrees by the age of 30. It kind of reminds me of, so I did an MBA back when I was 20. When I started my MBA program, I was 21. I'd never worked. And I started this MBA program without any work experience. And I was the only person at 21 in my class, and the only one with no work experience. And I think in general, any time in life we're doing things differently than other people, it almost feels like there's something wrong with us, when the reality is we've just done things differently. So I think, and in my case, there was value to have the education that I could then take into the workplace. It's a chicken and egg kind of question. And for you, you have life experience. And to me, that's where we learn things. We learn things in life. We learn things in doing. I really hope that my kids have the opportunity to travel and see stuff before they start working, because I think that will make them a different person, fundamentally different person. So look, if I had 2 people in front of me, someone with a couple years of work experience and someone with military experience, I mean, there's no question I take the military experience. So, but I would question why you really, feel almost useless a little bit. That's, a little harsh, um, if it really is that bad, and maybe spend some time thinking about that. Hey, Dad, how do I stop self pity because of my chronic disease? Because I got the hardest question for with the time constraint. I'm sorry, um, that you're in a. I'm sorry that your life has chronic disease in it. There's a lot of pain. I mean, there's a lot of pain that obviously I would imagine that comes with that. What's the self pity over? I'm going to go to the bottom. What's the self pity over? I'll look for your comments. Um, it's hard to be in chronic pain. If we have any friends that are in chronic pain, I want you to reach out to them and be there for them. For those of us who've ever had any pain, if you can imagine having constant pain in your life that doesn't let up, it's horrendous. So if you can go and help a friend who's in chronic pain by just being there for them and helping them out, I think there's probably no greater good. I think, look, if I was in chronic pain, I think your self pity is fine. I think sometimes there's a place for self pity, and chronic pain would be one of them. If it's bothering you, if you don't want self pity, then I think you can try to move it somewhere else. But I think it's appropriate. I would pity myself in that situation. It's hard. It's really hard. And nobody can understand it either, can they? Only you, and maybe other people in chronic pain. So allow yourself, if that's what you need, I think it's perfectly fine. I would say that there are definitely some things that I would want to have a therapist to help me out with in a situation like that. And also, obviously, I'm assuming that you're going to the doctors that can help you with pain, because there are options. And I think that's key as well. So, but I'm really sorry that you're in chronic pain. And I wish I could alleviate some of that for you. But I think that, and yeah, I guess I don't really have enough time to really. I'll try to speak more about that tomorrow. And I am here, I guess, pretty much every day at 5 o'clock. I'll be back here again tomorrow at 5. And if you have found this helpful, please just throw in thank you. That inspires me to come back. If you want to throw in some questions, I'll try to get to them tomorrow as well. And let's all send our good wishes to our friend in chronic pain. Just take that moment. Okay. So for all of us, I hope that everybody fully realizes, this is always the important thing, that you are beautiful. And you know what? I'm just going to take a minute to explain what that beauty is. It's that we're all interconnected in a way, and we're all shining examples from within. Because I'm still trying to better explain what I mean by beautiful, and it's kind of hard to put into words. We're all perfect, I guess is kind of what I'm trying to say. So I want you to see that within yourself. If you could just take that, I'm going to skip the rest of what I usually talk about. If you can take a moment and do a favor for me and a favor for yourself, I want you to see your inner beauty just for 1 minute. Just take 1 minute and just see. And keep looking until you find it. That true beauty that shines into the world, that makes you you, makes you special. It'll change your life, and then you can go and change other people's lives too. And it's there. You just got to look for it. So I'm just going to end with that for today. And thank you all for joining me. It's always such a pleasure. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night at 5. So cheers. Be well.